This is Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network, and I am your host, Mark. Today's guest has the best outlook. Welcome Clinton Jacob of Mr. Phylzzz to the podcast. He's based out of Chicago, but originally hails from Clarksville, Ohio. Apparently they have quite the grotesque claim to fame. Clinton began his musical career playing in bands that were a little more traditional in their sound and approach, which he hated. But there wasn't much in Clarksville besides that and dead bodies. And that's actually what made Clinton realize music was what he wanted to do. Mr. Phylzzz was formed as a joke by driving a member of one of those bands he hated to quit the band he loved. Around that same time, he also started working at a comedy club and dabbling in stand-up. The perseverance Clinton saw from comedians crashing and burning one night just to kill it the next had a profound effect on him and his view of his band and the philosophy of do it all backwards. Clinton talks about how he connected with the legendary label Amphetamine Reptile and how the band's relationship with the Melvins formed and how important it is to him. After going through a few drummers, Clinton found his equal in Dan Sine. The two make very noisy music together. To that end, Clinton tells some of his odd studio techniques that the band has employed over the years. They have some big plans for 2025, including new music and touring a lot. So grab the music on Bandcamp or wherever you get music, but Bandcamp is the best. Follow them at Mr. Phylzzz Band on Instagram, Mr. Phylzzz on Facebook, or at MrPhylzzz.com. And make sure you spell it wrong. Follow us at PerformanceANX on socials. Our merch is at performanceanx.threadless.com. Send money for coffee at ko-fi.com/performanceanxiety. And now check out the insanity of Clinton Jacob and Mr. Phylzzz on Performance Anxiety on the Pantheon Podcast Network.
Hi, I'm Clinton Jacob. I am one half of Mr. Phylzzz, and you're listening to Performance Anxiety, bitch.
Sounds good.
Cool.
I like the tree.
Thank you so much. Gotta keep it a little Christmassy everywhere, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, man. I had one in here.
You can get one. You still have time. They're on sale right now.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. They're really cheap.
Yeah, that's what I hear right about this time. Yeah. It's like the time to really go and get one for next year. Start early.
Yeah. Start your own business. Start selling them before the stores do.
Exactly. Everybody waits till the last minute. Well, get an early start.
Yeah, why not?
It's a whole side of the business nobody's thought of.
No, not at all. That's where all the money is.
Fucking good reason, too.
Yeah.
So, well, hey, I appreciate you doing this, man. Thank you so much.
Hey, absolutely. Anytime.
All right. So the first time I heard of the band was when you guys opened for Melvins and Boris. I was there to take some photos and do a concert review of Melvins. I was actually didn't even have to be there for Boris. The blog I'm shooting for was like cover Melvins. Okay.
Yeah.
No problem. So I get there and I always try to see the opener, even if I don't have to cover them. And
sure.
Now, okay, before I get too far into this, is it Mr. Phylzzz? It's just, or Phylzzz? Because I've been listening to some podcasts and you've referenced it both ways, Mr. Phylzzz and just Phylzzz. And I'm just wondering if if it goes one way or the other specifically.
It ebb and flows. I mean, I feel like it's Mr. Phylzzz for sure, but I feel like in the short, Phylzzz. As I guess in the same way, if we're on the subject of Melvins, it's like the Melvins or Melvins.
Right. Okay.
You know, it's kind of the same thing. But yeah, Mr. Phylzzz, you're one of the first people to nail it. So usually people are like Mr. Phylzzz or Files or
that was
Phyllis.
That was when I first saw you guys. I saw after the show, I went out and I saw merch tables and the flyers and the advertisements and all. And I'm like, because honestly, when I got there, I didn't even realize who the opener was. I didn't even know who the headliner was because it was at Howard Theater in DC, and all I was told was, go shoot the Melvins. I'm like, okay. And the Melvins, I'm assuming they're headlining. And so, but I always love to, you guys are one of the reasons I tell everybody, go see the openers. make sure you see the openers because they can blow your mind. And you guys absolutely did that. And so I was like, these guys, I got to check these guys out because this live show is absolute insanity.
Thank you.
And I loved it. And I've been a fan ever since. So I was trying to determine when a good time to approach you guys to come on the podcast would be. And then I saw that you did an Instagram live stream the other day. And that's when I'm like, all right, it's time. I gotta act because you were talking about going out on tour and trying to get word out. So I figured maybe now's a good time. Maybe they'd be open to doing it. So
sure.
I'm really glad you said yes because I got so many questions about you guys.
Awesome. I probably have most of the answers, I hope.
Well, even if you don't, make some shit up and nobody's gonna know.
Oh no, yeah, I'm the king of riffing, so this will be great.
Excellent. Yeah. So, all right, so we've determined the band is Phylzzz, and when Melvin's came out that night, and they said, all right, let's give a hand for Phylzzz, and I was like, but wait, that's what it says on my phone here. It says Phylzzz, Mr. Phil. Oh, did Buzz get it wrong?
Yeah.
No. And I haven't been sure until your live stream the other day.
Yeah.
So we cleared up. The band is incredibly noisy and fun. And the show, all right, before we get into I keep going back to the show. I want to find out how you got into music in the first place. So did you grow up in Cincinnati? Was that where everything started?
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of grew up in an area called Clarksville, Ohio, which is like 25 minutes north of Cincinnati. Okay. I say Cincinnati because no one knows what the fuck Clarksville is.
Unless you're a Monkees fan.
Yeah, Clarksville's claim to fame is where the I-71 Strangler dumped all his bodies and no one found them. Yeah. That's their like genuine claim to fame is that we hid a murderer's bodies for years and no one knew it.
That's so excellent.
Yeah, that's pretty much our claim to fame. So yeah, it all kind of started there. It was a really small like country town. Okay. And my mom played piano in church. My dad played like bluegrass guitar, like, and by that, I mean, he played like he was just drunk and he played with his brother on the weekends. Yeah. So that was my like introduction to like guitar and all that stuff. But just like any kid who lives on a country in a farm setting, they want to rebel. So yeah, I started, I got an electric guitar for Christmas and really wanted drums. So I didn't play that for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. And then I started messing around with it and started kind of doing my own. I was always like writing songs, I guess, as a kid. Even with my friend Colin Friend, we had a little terrible band that we would write just horrible songs. But they were fucked up and they were funny, and I think that's kind of where the love affair started. Was that was like, oh, this is fun. This is like, and as high school, you get in high school, and I was in like little bands in high school. But I, like, looking back, I always had this like, I feel like I had this like manic drive to want to do always more with it. So, I would play with kids in high school, but I would be like, well, we need to do shows. We need to do this and do this. And they're like, we just want to play in our basement. Like, we don't want to do anything else. And it's like, okay. So, I'd move on. And I never like, actually in all these bands, I should say, I was never playing guitar or fronting any of them. I was rather stuck on bass, or I was a little bit of guitar, or I like got a shitty drum kit at one point and I was doing drums. I was always like in the back. Yeah. So it was like, I just wanted to do it. So any form that I could squeeze in where somebody was like, well, we don't need a guitar. So I was like, I'll play bass. I'll figure it out. Or like, I'll figure out drums. And there wasn't that much in that town. There was like no one there. It's like I said, it's a desolate, dead ass town. There's nothing there. Well, so if you, yeah, tons of bodies. Yeah. But they're terrible band mates. Yeah.
Or the best.
Or the best.
They don't talk back.
No. They'll do exactly what you want to do. It might not be exactly what you want, but close.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
But yeah, I kind of started there, and that all kind of like built to where Phylzzz is, and kind of fast forward, I was in another band, like a really bad like Raconteurs ripoff band, basically called the Kill Tones. I hate even I hate even bringing it up because it's I don't know. Do you play music?
Badly, but yeah.
Okay, well, me too. So it's
but you get to tour doing it.
Yeah, I've conned enough people to make them believe it's good. It was like the first band that actually took it serious, where it was like like-minded people, and I love 25% of the people still from that band, but they're like, we took it kind of serious, and we were starting to do stuff, and I feel like that really put the nail in it for me to be like, this is what I want to do. But the main guy of that band, I was singing in that band at that time, not playing guitar, just singing.
Okay.
The main guy of that band, it just had to be this like fucking Raconteurs ripoff shit. Yeah. And so then I started with the drummer. I started showing up with a guitar and writing these like insane, random, loud, noisy things that I would present to the main guy in this band as a joke, where I'd be like, oh, we wrote these songs, I think you'll like it. It's very in that like Raconteurs kind of vein. And then it would just be like this shit, like fly shit. And he hated it. Absolutely. He fucking hated it. He hated it got to a point where like I got more obsessed doing that than I was doing the other band. And I would come with like, every single time I would sell it so well. I'd be like, no, this is like really good. Like, I'm not fucking with you this time. Like this one, I think it'd be good. And he would listen, and it would still be that like that crazy shit. And we stopped being a band. Like,
so yeah, you were Lucy, he was Charlie Brown, and you kept putting
away. 100%. Yeah, every single time.
That's awesome.
That band fell apart, and then and that's when I started Phylzzz, because I liked doing that so much. And I think it all kind of clicked where it's like, okay, it's just me and one other guy, and it's crazy, and it's kind of funny, but also kind of serious. Like it developed over time, but that's where that's the start of it, is making someone quit their band they love because I wanted to show them crazy riffs that I came up with.
So that sounds like your comedic background coming into play. So comedy also plays a big part. I know you've had a background in comedy as well. Did that start at the same time as your love of music?
No, it's like Phylzzz all came to a head because it's like the band, that Killtones band, separated. I was kind of tittling with Phylzzz at the moment, but then I had moved to Cincinnati at that time, and then I was just not doing anything musically. So I was kind of doing Phylzzz, but then I started working at a comedy club called Go Bananas in Cincinnati.
Okay.
And then I was starting to like dabble in stand-up. But I feel like everything I learned that made Phylzzz good today was working in that comedy club, because I learned of like, comedians to me are like the most fearless people on the planet, because they don't have to hide behind a guitar. It's just like literally a microphone. And if people laugh or not, it's like very stark. You can clap at a band, like anyone can do that.
Right.
But like, not laughing is crazy. Like it's such a, like working there was such a mind fuck in the best way to watch people go up, eat shit, and then the next night figure it out and then kill.
Wow.
So it was like, it to me, I grew obsessed with that, where I was like, these guys are going up there and rather purposely digging them. So like Chad Daniels is an amazing comic. He is so good that he'll dig a hole and like purposely bomb to dig himself out. Oh. And that to me is like crazy. So I feel like, yeah, the background for like the goofy and the funny end of that really came from working in that club and being around all these like amazing, talented comedians. Like Andrew Rudick is still one of my great friends. Like just watching people like write and create and go up and like eat shit and be like, I can make that better. And then like every night chip away at it until it's like absolutely killing. That to me was like, that's the performance aspect that I like took to heart, because those guys like they don't back down, and that's crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
I did before this podcast. Well, it started off before this podcast, and this podcast started at the tail end of this other podcast I was doing. One of the hosts of the podcast, there's four of us, and one of them was a producer for Comedy Central, and he produced Jim Jeffries' show. And so every few weeks, Jim would come on and just riff with he's usually like had just, ripped a couple lines in the bathroom and came out and just went ape shit.
Nuts. Yeah.
But it was hilarious. It was just amazing to watch his brain work.
Yeah.
And that kind of inspired me, because that was the second podcast I ever did. And that was half sports, half comedy, because of Tommy and his connection with Jim. And it really inspired me to want to do more of that and just do a podcast where people just laugh.
Yeah.
And just have fun. And that's kind of what I try to do with this one too. It's a little more difficult when it's just me as the host and not three other guys. But it was like you're saying, it's really inspiring to watch a guy just work through his material like that, when it's not working and when it is. It's just fascinating.
I watched Doug Stanhope was like kind of a regular at that club.
Oh, cool. And great.
And he's like the nicest guy on the planet. Cool. And I watched him write his recent special. Oh God, it's slipping my brain right now. Something about being bloated and dead, something along those lines. But he wrote that, walked in, had nothing, no material planned. And he had Bingo, his wife, sit in the back and hand scribe everything while he was saying, like, if something laughed, he would yell Bingo to write it down. And the next night he would memorize that chunk overnight, perform it. And then he would point and she'd write that down. And by Saturday night, the final show, which he would be doing like a Thursday one, Friday, 2 shows, Saturday. By the first show Saturday, whole special done. Wow. And just killing the room. And I'm like, that type of performance is like, I hyper focus on things, and that type of performing, I was like, that's what I want in a band. Like, I want that style of like, let's not give up on it, but like, let's keep pushing it further. Like, let's keep going with it. Let's take the good from it and keep working it. So I took a lot of that when I really started pressing on Flies. I used that a lot, where we would go and play shows and I would present songs that are half finished. And I still do that. I'll do like half songs and I'll try them and see like the reception or like what, and we'll try different things live and constantly change it until we go to the studio and be like, okay, that's it. This is what naturally now feels good. And that's something I took away, where it's like, I feel like so many bands will be like, no, we can't do that. It's not finished. And I'm like, who gives a fuck? Like, who gives a shit? Do half of it. Who cares? Then do another one of your shit that you've been doing forever. Like, it doesn't matter.
It's funny you mention that, because I've noticed that I go to a lot of shows now to photograph them. And back in the 90s, when I really started going to shows, bands would pull new songs out and say, hey, we got a couple of new songs we want to try on you guys. Yeah. And they would gauge the reaction. Over the past few years, when I started getting back into concerts after, I had kids and I had to kind of wait for them to grow up before I could go back to the shows again. And I don't see that as much anymore with bands trying to try new songs out on an audience. It's very sad. I really liked hearing new stuff. And I think that's a great way to gauge whether it's good or not.
Yeah, I like fully agree. I mean, and I think that's just another reason why this band is so strange is because it's because of that kind of stuff where I'm like, I want to do that like all the time. I mean, recently, even with the shows we've been doing, like a good chunk of it is new stuff that is legit half finished, that I'm like, well, I just want to do half of it. And then and most of the time, because Danny and I play together so much, that most of the time there's no ending. We just kind of like, we'll keep it going until we kind of naturally, I'm like, okay, end into the next thing. And then it's kind of burned in our brain. We're like, that ended cool. Maybe we'll do that. Or maybe we'll extend that part. Or, oh, I noticed you extended this. Or Danny, you kind of naturally went into this. We'll keep that in mind. Like, it's that same going back to the club thing. It's like that Stanhope transcribing in your head being like, okay, that worked. That felt good. Let's do that again.
Phylzzz has just such a unique sound. What were you listening to when you were growing up that really influenced you to kind of go this route and not raconteurs?
Yeah. Oddly enough, I was obsessed with the original Willy Wonka soundtrack. Like, I just think that movie and everything is like psychotic, but the music is nuts too. And also, fun fact about that movie, Gene Wilder, like, you know, there's so many parts where he just improvised and went away from the script. Like the part in where they're riding the crazy boat down the tunnel, and it's like all the psychedelic imagery and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
If you go back and watch that, and it's the wide shot where they're sitting facing him in a wide angle on the boat, you can watch the cast look at the camera directly like, what is he doing? Like, why is he yelling at us? Like, you see the kids and the parents being like, what is he doing? And they leave it in. You don't notice it because you're so focused on Gene Wilder and the crazy images. But yeah,
check that out.
Yeah, that, and you know, the ending where he's like, you lose, you get nothing. Like, all that is improvised. And you can tell it's the same thing. Grandpa Joe's like, the fuck? Like, why are you yelling at me? But yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff. Like, where I grew up, we didn't have internet or cable or anything like that. So it was a lot of just like weird VHSs my parents had around. So I just like all that all that music from that, if you really listen to it, is like really strange and kind of creepy. Naturally, you know, I was around a lot of bluegrass too. So Uncle Daddy and the Family Secret. No one's going to know what that is.
That sounds something from Appalachia for sure.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's very like, it's odd. I like the Del McCroy Band, which is another bluegrass band. Yeah. There's a lot of that. And then, you know, like naturally, one of my first CDs that I ever got was a White Stripes CD. And I think that kind of turned me on to the idea of simplicity behind music, because I was so used to like, you know, in high school, all these kids are playing like Avenged Sevenfold and all this like crazy stuff that I'm like, I don't fucking know how to play any of that shit. Like too fast and too complicated.
But it's insane.
Yeah, but I feel like the White Stripes were the first band where I was like, oh, I can like, it showed me how to learn how to play a song, like where it was like simple chords, simple progression. And then my grandma, God rest her soul, like whoever this Walmart person was that gave her these CDs, just like nailed it. Cause it was Nirvana live at the Muddy Banks of whatever that one is. Yeah. So I only had those two CDs. That's it.
Wow.
So I just had those. Because the Walmart was like an hour away. So it's like, forget it. We're not going back. Yeah. Like this is what you get. So that was kind of like all of that meshed together. And then around that time when I was getting out of high school and, you know, in school and stuff, MySpace was big. So there was other bands that started appearing, like the Blood Brothers, any of like the Coheed and Cambria, any of those old like MySpace, like scary, crazy bands, The Chariot. I really started slowly getting into that stuff where I was like, this is just crazy. Like I liked that it was just crazy, but it was kind of burning my head for a long time. And I never pulled any of that out because I was in all these other bands that, you know, were trying to be something that was already done. And then I got really sick of that because it's like, I felt like crazy because I was like, why do you guys want to be this band exactly like a band that's already made it? Like nobody wants to hear that again. Yeah. It's been done. And there's a difference between inspiration and like pure mimicking. And I felt like at the time we were just mimicking. So then when Phylzzz started, I was very adamant about like, do it all backwards, like from the last band. So like, if it felt wrong, it was right. That was pretty much was my logic. If it didn't feel like a proper way of writing a song, it was the way to go. So, and I've used that logic all the time where it's like limitations in the sense of, well, can we do a song that's just one note? Can we do a song that's the same note? Can we do a song that's just one string? How much of this song can just be drums? Like that kind of stuff. Like how not only just like how loud can we be, but like how can we take loud and like really strange it up where it's like it shouldn't be. I don't know. I don't want to say like it shouldn't be loud, but like how can we just every kind of different rule we could break. Like I like being loud, don't get me wrong, but there's so many times where I'm like, well, you expect loud, so how quiet can we get? Like how quiet of a band can we be? Like these parts that should be dirty and like gritty, let's be very clean. And or like, oh, you expect the band for me to be screaming the whole time. Well, I'm going to actually just sing. Like that kind of stuff. Like it was always, anytime it felt like it was going down a path, I would rewrite that path. And that's how the band's always been. I'm always changing it because I don't believe with Phylzzz there should be genre. I don't like being stuck in a pigeonhole because for so long I played in so many bands that just were like, it's got to be like this. And I'm like, in every vein, in every existence I've ever been with, played with anybody, I'm always the one that's like, well, why don't we try this? And they're like, well, it doesn't fit. Like, exactly. Yeah. That's why we should do it. It doesn't fit. Like, that's fun.
That's awesome. And that's one of the things I've noticed about the music is, and I'll focus particularly on your vocals at this point. Mm-hmm. It's all over the place. You can actually sing. You got a great voice, and on songs you really showcase. I mean, there's stuff that goes from, it sounds like you could be singing for like some 90s sleazy hair metal band to something that sounds like Les Claypool.
Yeah.
And everything in between. And it's amazing. I mean, it's a range like I've never heard before. And it's fascinating. I love it. Yeah. Sometimes it sounds like Looney Tunes characters playing Melvin songs.
Yeah, that's good.
and that was one of the things that I noticed when I saw you guys open for Melvin. It sounded like you were playing a character. Mm-hmm. And it was amazing to me because it was like you had kind of transformed into a whole separate person, an entity up on that stage. And it was like you were telling a story, and it was fascinating to me. I couldn't stop watching you guys.
Good. Yeah. I mean, like that, it's a character. I developed that over time. Again, it is all tied to the clubs and all that other shit, but it's 100% a character of something that again, it goes that opposite feeling. Like when I was developing Phylzzz, I was like, I want it to be weird and I want it to be strange and I want it to have like a character feel. And, originally it was supposed to be these like failed Bible salesman kind of vibe where it was just like, this is our last resort is this terrible band. But then as it like went on, I kind of like the idea of it just being like a small boy trapped in a man's body. It's so funny to me because it's like, it's really aggressive. And then you got somebody being like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, it's so jarring to especially a Melvin's crowd. Yeah. It like every night it was like, how can I do this? Because I love Buzz and I love the Melvins and I respect them a million times over. But I was like, I know that they're expecting something that is not adjacent, but something different. But I was like, I want to give them something different, like in all aspects. Like, those, I've seen it all where, like all these bands get up there and they're like, really like, this is, it's so serious. And I gotta be like this. And it's like, no, it's silly. Metal, 90% of the time, metal music, people are singing about like wizards and dragons. Yeah. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I want it to be fun and, I wanted it to be me and I'm not going to alter that because I'm opening for the Melvins. And I think that that's something that Buzz and their whole crew also respected too, was like, I'm professional, I'm respectful, but also like, I'm not altering or changing this for a crowd to appease them. They're going to like it or they're absolutely going to hate it. And I feel like that's something that the Buzz and them really liked. I
think you're right, because that's kind of the way they've had their whole career. They're going to be the Melvins, no matter if you like them or not. And I don't think they want an opener that's going to try to out Melvins the Melvins.
Exactly.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
And it is one of those things too, when you're opening for a band like that, I will say that I'll be fair and say like 80%, 85%, every crowd loved us. And then there was the rest that fucking hated it. And those people made the people that liked it love it even more because they got it. They immediately caught on what it was and they appreciated it. They saw what I was doing. But yeah, I feel like also the Melvins crowd is a very receptive, good crowd too. Like I learned very quickly that if this is something the Melvins approve of, they're going to approve of it too. They'll have their opinions. And, I got the occasional message of people pissed off. It's just, pissed off that we were the opener and we wasted their time.
Thanks.
Yeah. And it's like, all you have to do anytime anytime I'd read those, I'd click on their page and the first thing was their band. And I'm like, that's why.
Yep.
Yeah. Because it should have been you, right?
Yep.
Not me. Great. Okay. Well,
exactly.
It wasn't. So.
I don't know. I just have so much respect for Melvin. So when I've been lucky enough to have Buzz and Dale on the podcast, and
the best.
Oh, they were amazing. They're so gracious I'm a little podcast. I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm not one of these enormous podcasts with millions of listeners. So
yeah,
for them to come on and be kind enough to spend a little bit of time talking to me, I will love those guys forever. And if they decide, hey, this is a band we want opening up for us, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to give you guys a chance. And I'm so glad I did. Like I said, I didn't even know who the opener was going to be for that show. So it was amazing. But my question, I guess at this point is, so you said the band kind of started out as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
At what point did it go from joke to cult? Or we're going to actually record stuff now?
It took a lot of convincing because when we started picking up and I got out of the club and I was really started doing the music again and I was like really tying in the idea and all of this was coming together. It's like, oh, it could be a character, it could be funny, it can be this. And like the door kind of busted open for like, I can do whatever I want. That's when it really started kicking off. And then we were, for a while, is purposely getting us booked places where I knew we'd get kicked out. So it'd be like we would bill as a jazz band and then we would just be this blaring wall of sound and immediately get kicked out. And that happened a lot. I did that quite a bit. And the old Facebook post, if you look way down in the old Facebook, there's so much footage of like the cop count where how many times the cops got called on us and like kicked out, or cops trying to stop it. And I'm telling people to like block the doors so they can't get in so we can finish. Like
that is awesome.
There was a lot of that for a while. But yeah, then it started turning into a song where I was like, okay. And then it started really crafting the songs and like creating this world and this environment and the sound over time in between all of this, where it's like, it's funny. And then it was like, oh, I really like doing this. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, this is actually, I'm on to something. And then it was like, oh, this is what I've been wanting to do forever, is just have fun in a band. That's it.
That is so awesome.
It's just have fun, play music and have fun. And I feel like too many bands don't understand that relationship of, if you're not having fun, you're going to quit. If you're having fun and you like what you're doing, you're going to do it forever and you're not going to care what you're going to get out of it.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's not. It's really not. Like when we really started pushing it and really writing it and making things happen and touring and setting up shows and, watching people actually pay attention, which I think one of the first times is we got booked at Third Man Records, even before AmRep. We were playing we were like one of the first bands to play the Detroit location. And it all kind of started snowballing after that, where things started getting more serious but it was still fun. And that was something I really emphasized. Cause like, again, every band I was ever in, it was just never fun. It felt like we were trying to do something instead of just having fun and making music. And I've kept that all the time. Like even with writing now, if I'm not having fun or we're not having fun doing it, I'm not putting the energy into that, because I don't want to have 5 or 10 minutes of the set be something that doesn't feel fun. Okay. So it's very much like keeping the fun and energy and as that grew and as things started to happen, things changed. We're doing shows. I'm posted online. I'm all this other stuff. And that's kind of when Hayes approached me through, I think, an email. He just asked if I had physicals. And I had no idea at the time that it was actually Tom. It's just, I got this email from a guy named Hayes, and I said, "Hey, do you have any physicals?" And I just wrote, "No, we don't do physicals." That's how I responded, because I was doing merch that was like, at the time, and not knowing AmRep at all at this point, just doing merch. It was like very limited shirts, very limited this, this is only going to be online for a day, like audio, take it, and then I'm deleting it and no one will ever hear it again. Wow. Like that kind of stuff. And from what I gathered, Tom had watched the band for a year and had not said anything. Just watch what I was doing for a year and watch it like grow and things happen, organically. And then I'd said no physicals, and then I didn't, and then I looked at, like, for some reason, I don't know why, but I remember I was living in Kentucky at the time, and I looked and I was like, I'm going to look up who this fucking guy is, because it's probably a joke, or it's probably somebody being an ass back to me, because I've been an ass, like, this has been a joke, kind of a goof, Andy Kaufman-esque kind of thing I've been doing for a bit. Let's see. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, this is actually that guy. So then I emailed him back and I was like, are you really Hazelmeyer, like Tom? And he's like, yeah. And then we started chatting, and he kind of asked me about my plans, and that's where we got Penitent Curtis. Or I'm sorry, no, we were on Dope Guns and Fucking in the Streets. Oh, he asked if we want to be on that comp. And that's where it all was like, oh, people like this. Yeah. And like, and I had people that liked it. And we were getting followed, all yada, yada, all that jazz. And we had put out a little EP called Sounds Like Everybody Else. And then this was the next step after that, where I was like, okay, then it became serious, because I was like, oh, I want to, this is what I want to do for a living. And with Tom in my corner, I felt for the first time ever with music that I was like, oh, I'm on to, like, I'm doing something good. Like, I'm doing something that I truly love, and it's 100% authentically me, and I'm not sacrificing anything. And someone likes that. Someone supports that.
Yeah. And who can actually help you further the band.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't have to sacrifice or change. And that's always, like I said, I'm always, going back to everything. That's always been my problem when I play with people, is they always want to be something that's done, or they want to sacrifice something for a small gain, where it's like, oh, if we change this, then, we might be able to play fucking Buttfuck Harry's. And it's like, I don't give a shit about that. Like,
that place sucks.
Yeah.
So is that, with that connection, is that when you started thinking about actually putting out a full-length album, a Penitent Curtis album?
Yeah. That was like one of the first times with like everything that I was like, okay, we did an EP, we've been playing these songs. And at the time I was writing really fast. So we would have all these songs that we didn't really know what to do with at the time. We were playing them live. We kind of weren't, they were backlisted. So then we booked studio time. And the drummer at the time, we were just like, okay, well, let's see what we can do. Like, fuck it. We'll just go in. I personally am not a fan of studios. I don't like that environment, because every time I've ever been in a studio setting prior, it was like, again, it was somebody telling me like, that's not a good idea. Yeah. And I'm like, well, that sucks, because this is what I like. But this band, I had more confidence going in, because it was so abrasive and strange that the only way I could capture it is by telling the engineer, like, this is what I need and this is what it's got to be. So that experience was a little bit better. And we crapped those songs out, I think, in like 3 days for that record. Wow. Yeah, we did it all in 3 days. And I think a lot of it was, again, because I didn't want to be there, but because I just don't like studio environments. So we got that one out, and I felt pretty good about that one, because I was like, okay, this is like, we kept stepping up the game with like the songs and songwriting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And Tom took that one and put it out, and that's when we started getting like good reception back. And then it was like, okay, we can tour further than the Midwest. We can do a lot more than the Midwest now.
It's such a killer. Bible Thumper is one of the best songs. That song kicks ass. And
thank you.
There's a smell that burns this soul. Where you come in the earth, where the grass bleeds, on the side of someone nothing, where I'll be. Holy Skelly, give me sympathy.
like I was you change your vocals up so much, and songs like Kitty are just wild. And some songs you're singing, and like I said, something that could be a band from the Sunset Strip in the late 80s, and sometimes it's like this high-pitched, like you mentioned, there's a kid in a man's body kind of. Sometimes it's in the same song.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I love the versatility and the imagination you guys put into everything. It's unbelievably unique in the best way possible.
I appreciate that. And I think it just took forever to let go of what people might think.
You mean like caring what they thought?
Yeah, because I spent so long in these other bands like giving a shit about what people thought, because I thought that was what the music industry was. Yeah. And then, I'm doing this and I'm like, this is just like pure freedom. It's like, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want because I like it. I do not give a shit if anyone else likes it. And like, that's exactly was the whole point with all of that. Even when I was recording that, the engineer at the time, who's very nice, I could tell there was a lot of it where he was like, okay, you want to do that? All right, I guess. Like,
he's like, I get paid either way.
Pretty much, yeah. So, but yeah, I kind of just like threw away the rule book a long time ago when I started this band, and I feel like that's where all the like weirdness comes out, because it's a lot of stuff that traditionally I 100% can say people would not do or even risk doing. Just the weird voices and changing and like vocal strange shit, and even the musicianship and shit like that. But yeah, that's like something that I will stand by forever, is just playing and performing and creating in that weird, eccentric, I don't give a shit what you think way.
Well, I love it. I mean, it's got to sound weird, but it's brave. I mean, I love bands that are brave enough to just say, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anybody thinks about it. So it's why I love bands like Mr. Flies, Swans, the bands like that are just insane. They're just in the most beautiful way possible.
Yeah.
When did you meet up with Danny? Because Danny's not on the first album. Is he on Cancel Culture Club, or did he join after that?
So the first drummer, I kind of like, again, when I do something, I go super hard. Yeah. So the first drummer, I was just booking too much then. I was like, I'm like wanting to do 30, 40 days in a row. Yeah. And that's just stuff he's just not wanting to do, which I get. So he kind of bounced. And then I got another drummer named Danny, who we just called Danny One. And he did a run with me, another like pretty long run. But then I think that was like right before COVID hit, or was about to hit. Okay. So we got back, and then, he lived way up north in Ohio. He lived like 3 hours away. So COVID hit. I started writing Cancel Culture. I moved to Chicago. I started writing Cancel Culture Club in like a 10 by 10 room, just by myself, and wrote like the whole thing. Is like locked in this. I had, it's just my partner at the time and I in this like small little Chicago apartment. And I'm just in the bedroom in a desk that's like literally this big. It barely could fit my computer, and just like a little fucking tiny Scarlett, and just like anything I could find, just like cranking out these songs, because I didn't know if we were going to tour or do shows again. Who knew what the fucking world meant,
Yeah, exactly.
entertainment was like the last thing people cared about. People were like toilet paper.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it was like, that's pretty much what people gave a shit about. No one gave a shit that I was like, I got a new song.
You gotta wipe my ass with it?
Yeah.
No.
So they, no, you can't?
You
okay.
can.
Well,
I'm in.
Yeah, it's not coming on vinyl. It's coming on 2-ply. So yeah. I wrote this whole record. I had some ideas for drums. I had some stuff, sort of going, couldn't really record much drum wise. And a lot of this band is like going with my gut. And I remember I'd cross paths with Danny number one in Grand Rapids, where current Danny lived at the time. And we played a house show with him. And I don't know what it was, but I was on Instagram and I saw he had posted some drum videos and I was like, I fucking remember this guy. And I saw he moved to Chicago and I was like, what the fuck? So I messaged him and I was like, hey, I'm working on this record. I don't really have any friends here. Do you want to come over and hang out and hear it? And I showed it to him and he liked it, but I also hadn't told him much yet because he didn't know Buzz had played on it. He didn't know any of that stuff yet.
Okay.
So I just showed him the record with no names, no nothing, no label, no nothing. And I was like, well, would you ever be interested in jamming or maybe adding some more to this? And he was like, yeah. So we kind of started that way. And I wanted to not make a mistake again. Maybe mistake's a little too harsh, but I wanted to make sure that somebody knew what they were getting into.
Okay.
Because of the work ethic. I think both prior drummers were great. They're fantastic players, but I don't think they understood what I meant when I was like, oh, it's all or nothing. Like I'm going to go insanely hard on all of this. So I had to feel Dan out, but Dan was very much like ready to go out the gate. And I would do rehearsals that were like 4 or 5 hours long and it would be the same song over and over and over and over and over and over again, to a point where it's like, I know we did Kitty probably 30, 40 times in a row where I would be like, we would get done and I'd be like, run it again. And we'd just keep going and get done and go, run it again, get done, run it again. Just repetitive. Because to me, I was like, if he can deal with this shit, he can deal with any of the other shit I got that I'm going to throw at him. So we got through that. We played some shows.
So it was Phylzzz boot camp.
Yeah, pretty much. We played a few shows. I'd had him add drums and then I told him about, I was like, oh yeah, like Buzz played on this. And he was like, what? So I didn't want to drop that out the gate. I wanted to see like what his intentions were. And
yeah, exactly.
And I mean, he works hard and he's like one of the only drummers that I've had play in this band who is the same pace as I am with like everything. I mean, he's ready to go. He's ready to play. He writes the same speed I do. He records the same speed I do. He can like truly keep up with everything. And he's grown so much as a drummer. Cause when I found him online, he'd been playing for a while, but now he's put so much more time into it and crafted this style that I'm like, yeah, this is it. Like this guy is exactly what Phylzzz should be. He's figuring it out. He's playing on his own terms. He's not trying to sound like anybody else. This is like, he's playing what he thinks it should sound like. And that's where my trust lies. It's like, what's your interpretation of what this should be? I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
You tell me. And that's what I like, what he's brought to the table, where I don't have to sit there and explain like, oh, it needs to be like, da, 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 da. He's just creating what he thinks it should sound like. And I think that kind of trust is what makes a band good.
That connection is amazing. And when you when you guys are playing, you can see how much fun he's having. He is smiling behind that kid the entire time. It's amazing. It's great. I love watching it.
He crushes. I mean, he's like, I think when he started playing with me, he hadn't really played drums live that much.
Oh, wow.
Really not that much at all. I think he's been playing drums for 3 years.
Wow.
I think 3 years, maybe 4. Jeez. But it's nuts because he's got the work ethic that's there, and that's really important, is, and he's very dedicated, and like, but he's having fun. Like you said, that's the important part, is he's having fun, and it shows. And I mean, him and I have driven through the South in a van with no AC, and like pouring gallons of water to like not die, like that kind of shit, where it's like most people would quit and not want to do it, and like sleeping in shitty, sketchy places, and wondering if we're going to get to the next place, if the van's going to break down or some issue. And it's like, he's game. He's completely game. And that's really important.
Buzz is on Mr. Entertainer off of Cancel Culture Club. How did your connection with him and Melvin's start? How did he end up on that album?
Yeah. So, naturally, AMREP, Tom. What I love about Tom and our relationship is I don't want to be bullshitted or lied to.
Right.
I want it to be shot straight no matter what, in most things. And that's what I love about Tom. Tom is going to tell you exactly the truth if you want to hear it or not. And, when I first started working with him, I loved the Melvins, and I was like, oh man, it'd be great to do something with the Melvins. And he was like, ain't going to happen. Okay. But it's just being honest, just being like, it's just not how Buzz works. Yeah. And I was like, okay, cool. So it was out of sight, out of mind for the longest time. It was just writing, recording, playing, doing stuff. But then I was working on Cancel Culture, and I wrote Mr. Entertainer, and Tom had flew in from Minneapolis, and we were listening to it in my tiny little bedroom. And Tom brought his guitar, and I wanted him because Tom's kind of playing throughout the record as well. Oh. And he's on Mr. Entertainer as well. He's ripping guitar on it. So we got done, and he was like, well, what do you want to do with this one? And I was like, well, naturally I want to put it out. And I was like, I have this idea, Cancel Culture, kind of like play off of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I made that cover. And it first started with Kevin Romanis. I was like, I think Kevin would be really sick to have on this record. And he was like, okay, I'll reach out, see what's up. And he did. And I got to know Kevin, and I had Kevin play on it. And I don't know really how, but I think it got around to Buzz through Tom talking about the band forever, Kevin talking about the band. And I mentioned to Tom, I was like, I feel like Mr. Entertainer, the middle kind of screams like a Buzz solo. And I don't know if that's possible, but I would love for you to maybe pitch it. And Tom was like, I'll see what I can do. And I think Tom sent him the song, I took a selfie at a protest, so that makes me a good person.
Right.
And
great song too.
Yeah. And I think Buzz kind of dug it, and, kind of was kind of getting the vibe. And I got an email one day saying, hey, I'd like to do this. And it was just kind of like timing, where I was just going to send him the tracks, and then he was going to send me the tracks back. Yeah. But it kind of panned out to where he was playing. Their first show back from the pandemic was Chicago. Oh, okay. Yeah. And it was at the House of Vans. It was a one-off. They were just flying in. First time they'd done a show since the pandemic. And he was in town, and it kind of just worked out where he was like, I'm in town, I can swing by. Great. So I went and got him from his hotel, and I remember pulling up, and he just comes back. This big fucking hair comes bouncing out. He's like looking around, and pick him up, and nice as he can be, gets in the car, and he's like, hello, I'm Buzz. And I was like, hi, I know you are.
Yeah.
But he came over, man. Yeah, literally. I know. He came over and couldn't be nicer. Could not be nicer. Wow. And this little makeshift tiny room, little makeshift shit studio setup. And he's like, well, what do you want me to do? And I played him the section, and he's like, well, which guitar? And I was like, whichever one. And he picked up, I think, like the Les Paul, like the black Les Paul that I use, the Epiphone. And he listened to the section once. We ran it back. He ripped a lead. I ran it back one more time. He ripped another part of another chunk of the lead. And then he goes, okay, save it. That was it. And
wow.
And it's like, I know when people are like, it was perfect. It really was exactly what I was thinking without saying anything. I was like, yeah. And he was like, what do you think? And I was like, yeah, man, it's exactly what I wanted it to be. And he was like, great. So we, after that, we went and got food, and we kind of talked about the band and like what I'm doing. And he invited me and my partner at the time to come out to the House of Band show. And again, just like super fucking nice, acted like he's known me forever. And I'm very grateful for him. And just even from there onward, he'd always been like, so just that alone would have been great. I never would have asked for anything else. And I never had to, because he was just very, like, I don't know, in our corner and just very cool.
That's awesome. And I know he's very supportive of the bands that he likes. That's been my understanding of him. And, it's in my very limited interactions with him, he's been just an amazing person. You did have one release during COVID, though. You did put out The Crusher, which is wild. When I heard it the first time, I'm like, that kind of sounds like if you took Rocky Erickson meets MC5, gave him a shit ton of cocaine, and told him to write their version of The Twist.
Yeah.
And that to me is what The Crusher sounds like.
You nailed that. Tom sent me that song. Have you ever heard the original one by the Novas?
No, I didn't even realize it was a cover.
Yeah, it's a cover. So it's a song by the Novas, and the original one is like the guy sounds like a behemoth. Like it's like real. He's like, do the hammerlock. It's like real odd.
Oh my God.
He was like a pro wrestler, I guess, that had a song, like one of that mountain era kind of like weird. Yeah, he was like, he sounded just like a behemoth.
Gosh, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, Tom sent it to me, and I don't know, he was kind of obsessed with it. He's like, you should do a cover of this. And I was like, okay. So yeah, I cranked it out and I sent it to Tom, and he was like, this is crazy. And I was like, yeah, like this is my version. It's like the Mummies kind of blown out Jim Jones review kind of vibe. Yeah,
it is so cool. So yeah, how long after all of that, the pandemic and all things started opening up, how long did it take for you guys to get back out on the road? And are you guys out on the road a lot?
Yeah. So after the pandemic kind of started lightening up, and we were able to tour, I think Danny and I hit pretty quickly. We were doing a lot of like regional stuff, and then we did a 38 something day run, and then we were still doing regional. But yeah, I mean, we stayed out as much as we could. If not doing a bunch of weekenders or like 5-day runs or like a week run, we were doing the like 30+ day sort of runs. Cause I like to do in the fall time, at least, 30 to 40 in a row. That kind of covers your bases for a minute. But then mostly just like weekenders, week runs, 2-week runs in between all that. But yeah, we were out pretty quick and we stayed out as long as we could and was, building stuff. And that's where Melvin's come into play again. Cause during that one long 30 something day run, you do something that long as a DIY small band. And at this time, our following is still, we have like 3,000, 2,000 followers on Instagram or something like that at the time. Yeah, we still hadn't really had anything in our back pocket. And I think we got back from that. Did we get back from, was it that run? Something happened where Tom was like, hey, we're going to do a release party for, I don't think it was Fat Chant. Some release party for something, maybe Cancel Culture. But he was like, you want to do it at Grumpy's and you just open for the Melvins at Grumpy's. And I was like, hell yeah, that sounds sick. Yeah. So Tom was like, let me talk to Buzz and see if we can make that happen. But we'll do the release here as like a little, here we go kind of thing. And Buzz said, yeah. And that's when we met up again. But it's the first time us opening for him. And, same shit, super nice, super cool. Met the crew this time. We did our thing on and off. He was very complimentary, very friendly, very nice. And again, I was like, this is it. We did it. We opened for the Melvins. This is fucking awesome. This is rad. I was like, I couldn't ask for anything else. It's the same kind of thing, being like, I'm satisfied. This rules. And we go back out. And during that tour, we're out playing. They're out playing. We get to Memphis. Our show canceled, just dead. And somehow or another, I posted about it on Instagram being like, that died. That sucks. We're not gonna be able to play tonight. And then Dale was like, oh man, that stinks. And sorry, your thing didn't work out. I was like, oh, it's okay. He was like, well, maybe we can squeeze you on our bill in Memphis. And I was like, dude, that would be amazing if that can happen. But no, if it doesn't work out, it's not that big of a deal. Like we'll at least say hi. We'll be in town if you guys got time or whatever. Yeah. But they naturally ended up making it work. And that's where we opened for them again. That footage is online on YouTube. It's at Growlers. That's a really fun one to watch because I feel like that's something that I feel like most bands, if you're opening for a national band, they don't understand. And Buzz had told me this later Buzz told me, you guys go on at 8, you are done. You guys go on at 8 till 8:30 and right when doors open. Sure. Absolutely. We'll do it. Got on exactly at 8. We got off exactly at 8:30. The stage was clear at like 8:40, like everything off. The next band was ready. And after all that was said and done, that was something that Buzz had said that he was like, that's what's going to get you more opening spots is the fact that I told you a time, you did the time, you got off, you were out of the way, you were professional, you did the job, you were out of the way. Yeah. He's like, other bands will get up there and they try to milk this time or make it about them. And he's like, you understand it's an opening position. That's going to get you more gigs with national acts. I burnt that shit in my brain. I was like, okay, it's like, if this guy who's been doing it for 40 years is giving you advice, you're an idiot if you don't listen. Exactly. So I was very like, even up to now when we opened for Mastodon, like that was something in my brain where the Mastodon's manager was like, you guys are, it's like 7:15 to 7:45. And I was on at 7:15 and I was absolutely off at 7:45. This is like, you never know what it might turn into. Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking at some of the songs on the album here. Before we get into the latest one, Cancel Culture Club, Pretend Friends. That is one of my favorite songs. That's good. I mean, each album has just, I would say if I pick my top 3, there's one from each album in my top 3. And Pretend Friends is up there for the second album. It smells like
I feel the boom in the room, yeah.
it's just got these heavy cement slab riffs. I love the way you write riffs. Do you have a process to your writing? Are you writing every day? Do you make yourself write, or does it just come to you and you're just trying to keep up with it?
It's a little bit of everything. I kind of stay open to all things. Like, I play guitar every single day. Like, there's not a day where I'm not playing. I'm playing or working on something. And I think it gets to that point where I'm kind of like zoned out while I'm playing, where the stuff comes out. So that's a lot of the writing processes. I have several acoustics and all that jazz, and mostly everything usually starts on like an acoustic.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, I kind of mess with that first. But definitely Pretend Friends came from that. Was just like riffing, playing around on an acoustic, and that riff kind of came out, and it just like stuck with me for a while. And I had it, and I just couldn't find a home for it. And then it's that same thing going back to like just playing and riffing around. We're playing and riffing at a show, and I kind of busted into it, but we only had like a verse and a part. Okay. And then once we did it once, I was like, oh, this has got so much legs. It's crazy. So I really kind of work shedded it. But yeah, a lot of it is just sitting around playing with an acoustic. Sometimes it's just electric. Sometimes it's just piano. Sometimes walking around, I'll just have the riff in my head and I'll sing it in my phone, like what the guitar riff is. So I have so many voice memos of me being like, it should be in D, and it's like dun 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 dun, like that kind of shit. That will trick my brain when I get home, where I'm like, oh, okay, it's this. So, but it's ever changing. Like, again, it's the same thing. Like, I don't stick to one thing. The new way we've been writing the new record is Dan and I will get together and we'll jam on something, and we'll just do this endless loop of one thing and then let it kind of naturally spread out to something else. And that's been working really well. Or the voice memo thing. And I've been writing some demos at home. Yeah, just kind of anything that excites me in any form, in any fashion, is what I gravitate towards.
So you mentioned that you and Danny are working on a new album. For the first, for Penitent Curtis and Cancel Culture Club, were you the primary songwriter, or did the other guy, Dan one, and I think the other drummer whose name is
Ray, yeah,
were they contributing to the writing at all, or was it mostly?
Yes, so it was mostly me, but Ray also had a really good sense of musicianship, and he actually was the one that introduced me to the Melvins. Because I bought tickets for him with never seeing them as like a birthday gift, and we went to go see him. We're like dead front row with the two drummers, and I had a headache for like 3 days. But I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
But he had a really good sense of music, and he helped write some stuff too. And he would have good ideas. Incredible drummer. He had really great drum ideas. Dan, we didn't really write anything, mostly just toured. We kind of played with Pretend Friends a little bit, but yeah, I already had that song. I brought it to him. He just like took the drums I already recorded. Dan, however, is way more involved in the songwriting. Like I like writing with him and getting together with him, because he's gotten really good at when I like write a riff, he'll like stop me and be like, no, like that, extend off that. Like, that's cool.
Oh, nice.
So that's what I really like, is somebody pulling me out of my own head too, when I'm in the middle of a riff and he's like, no, save that. That's good. Let's go with that. Okay, cool. Or I'll bring something and I'll be like, I think it's for here. And then he'll this recent song we're writing where I had this whole riff that I loved, and he was like, nah, man, I actually think it's this one part should be this main riff. And then I was like, oh shit. And then we did it. I was like, that's actually it. Yeah, you nailed it. That's it.
Oh,
so
awesome.
Yeah, it's been really cool to write with him, because, he's very open to the same thing. If I have a drum idea, he's totally down to do it. He listens to all the ideas I have. He has really good input. Yeah, it's very collaborative now, which is really nice.
Fat Chance.
Yeah.
Did Dan help write that with you, or was that mostly you?
Yeah, Dan definitely helped write a good chunk of that too. That was a very collaborative writing effort on that one. We had been working on songs for a while, and again, the same thing, touring, had a bunch of ideas, been trying them out. So yeah, him and I both definitely split the writing on that one for sure.
It sounds a little different. It sounds a little cleaner, less overdriven as a whole. And it's a really cool sound. I mean, songs like Pontiac Grand Am, that I love that song. When you yell, get in the car, bitch. I literally started laughing at work. I got my earbuds in. I'm doing my job, and I just started cracking up. People were looking at me like, "What is wrong with you?" and I'm like, you got to listen to this.
I smell someone's a liar. Liar, liar, that's what you are. Like a cat scratch, fuck that, fight back. Liar, liar, that's what you are. Now if nothing is something you desire, how would you like that? Spoil milk, not bad. Serve hot with a little satire. Ha 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 ha, get in the car, bitch. Wow. Goddamn. Pontiac.
That was the whole, you actually, again, you nailed that. The whole point was I did a record that I did all on my own, that I recorded, mixed everything on my own, cancel culture. And then the next one I was like, well, I want to do the most professional, clean record I can possibly do. And that was going to a Steve Albini studio, Electrical Audio.
Oh, that's awesome.
And doing it there and being like, okay, we're going to do a super clean, polished record, because people were expecting another cancel culture. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm going to do a very clean record. Like,
so cancel culture, ends with protest. That song is so overdriven and so fuzzed out. And it's incredible. And I love that ends the album. And I love the little intermission section with the guitar just kind of fading in and fading out.
Yeah.
I love that. That is so cool. But this album, it sounds like you said the complete opposite. And when I told you a little earlier that if I pick my top 3 songs, there would be one from each album. Dirty Hands, to me, might be the ultimate Mr. Fly's song.
Sick.
It's just got everything that I love about the band in one song. I think that is my favorite Mr. Fly's song so far, since I haven't heard anything beyond Fat Chance. And you said there's some new music in the works, which is a good thing to hear. So for the time being, Dirty Hands is my number 1.
That's a really fun song. And again, I mean, that shows a lot of like Danny's strong music sense as well too, where that was, again, that's something we workshopped that kind of started out completely different, where we were like, let's create, I was really obsessed with this kind of like one string. How much can we do on one string kind of thing?
That is awesome.
Yeah. So I was like, how much can we do with one string? And we kind of pieced that together. But Danny's approach to drumming, and I mean this with 100% love, is so strange that it's very different. And I think that's also what sets that song off, is not just like these simple big riffs and these weird timing moments, but just like his approach to drumming. I know if I were to give that to anybody else, I know exactly the way they would have done it. And I can hear it.
Really?
And Danny's approach is like not what I expected that to be. And that's why I was like, this is great. This is not what I expected. Yeah.
That is so cool. When you can get that out of your band member, that is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of had an idea of like, this is where this might go. And then Danny did something completely different. I was like, great. This is awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
And Modern Life is my next favorite on that. It is, man, and I'm glad I'm going to be including clips of the songs into this, because it's very difficult to describe Mr. Fly's to people.
Yeah.
Because any description doesn't do it justice. And might make somebody go, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
It'll either make them curious, like, all right, I got to check this out. Or they'll be like, that just sounds too weird. So
yeah.
I definitely make sure people hear it before I describe. I try not to describe it too much and just say, you just have to listen. Like,
yeah.
I mentioned to my youngest daughter that I was having you on tonight, and she's like, "Oh, okay, what do they sound like?" And I played a couple of tracks, and she's like, "I've never heard anything like that before. There's no way you could have described this to me."
Yeah,
I'm like, "No, exactly. That's why you got to listen."
I mean, I feel like that's like the biggest compliment, and some people take that as like they're so afraid of that idea of being like, "Oh, you can't really describe it." And they're like, "Oh, I can't sell it," and it's like,
put it in a genre.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, I've always taken that as like a compliment. Especially, some of my biggest compliments have been people being like, but like what you said earlier, you didn't say this. You choose to like, you go and listen to the openers. But I had so many people on, the Melvins tour was the biggest tour we've had. Just tell us like, I fucking hate the openers, but I loved you guys. Yeah, I love. That's a compliment where it's like, we're going out to war every night to like win these people over or they're going to hate us. And my goal every night was like, I'm not going to change who I am. They're going to like this or they're going to hate it. And that's fine. And it's like working in the clubs. If you can win 50% of the room, you're killing. Yeah. So yeah, it was always nice every night to hear people be like, what the fuck? I don't even know what that was. And I'm like, good. That's good.
When I went through the photos that I shot for that night, I'm like, I have got to try to make sure these look like what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and they're great, by the way. Great photo.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. I got a bunch. I'm still I'm going back and I'm playing around with them and tweaking them a little bit more. So I'll shoot you a whole bunch when I'm done with them. So
yeah,
do with them what you want. So
yeah, you
guys get some very unusual sounds. I mean, do you use bizarre, odd, unusual techniques when you're recording? What are some of the weird things that you end up doing in the studio to get the sound?
It's like my favorite thing. Like I said, I used to hate doing studio stuff. Now I'm obsessed with it, especially when I started doing the record on my own. Because on Cancel Culture, I put in the liner notes, no good gear was used for this record. And I kind of obsessed with like junky, shitty mics. I'm obsessed with shitty mics. Bad amps. Most of the guitar tones from Cancel Culture is like a little shitty Esteban guitar amp that you got from like the QVC commercials, like that shit. But if we're speaking on Fat Chance, when we did that electrical audio, we recorded with Taylor Halls, and when I went in there, I told him straight up, I was like, I want to do very weird stuff, and it's going to be very unconventional. And I just want you to be prepared to just go with the flow. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. So I recorded some of the vocals laying down. For Pontiac Grand Dam, we threw the cymbals down the stairs. So that was a lot of that. We were recording the cymbals going down the stairs. Some of the drums were coffee cans. Some of the cymbals were just trash. Some of the, like the mic techniques, like laying down, or I would layer like a million vocals. The guitar swells and stuff are, building, I don't know how, but like building the insane guitars and stuff like that is something I've just gotten really good at doing, and just kind of going nuts for a bit. It's very like all in the moment, but I don't know. I really like to feel the energy of like what we're doing. And Taylor was really good at being quick, because when I did Cancel Culture, it was very quick. Like, I'm in the moment, I'm building and I'm listening, and I immediately have ideas where I'll be like, all right, we got to do this. Okay, no, it's got to be here. No, start here and I'll layer this. No, it's got to be this. And Taylor was just like, bam, 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 bam. Because we did that record in that we did that record mixed and done, recorded, mixed and done in 3 days. So yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And we would do 10-hour days. So 30 hours all recorded and all left with it mixed.
That's so incredible.
Because I work when I'm on, I can't shut it off. So it's got to be like go. Wow. And I don't break. I had to let legally he had to break, but even during break, I'm like, okay, well then I could do this, and then I can do this, and we're gonna change this and do this, blah blah blah. But yeah, it's just I love the Fuzz War Death by Audio guitar pedal. That's where a lot of the tone comes from is that pedal, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, so I love that pedal, and I'm a big fan of the Hillbillish design pedals he does the Melvin stuff. I've been, I got a lot of his stuff that it's all sounds amazing.
That's so cool. He follows the podcast. Actually, I got to try to get him on.
Great, man. He's a genius. He's the best.
You said Death by Audio. I had Oliver Ackerman. He was on the podcast.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah. He was awesome. He was a lot of fun stories with him. But so you mentioned just going nuts in the studio and just doing weird stuff all over the place. But do you ever, afterward, you've crafted this song that you love, are you ever concerned about how to translate that to a live setting, or do you just we'll just figure it out as we go?
No, because all of them are live first.
Okay.
So I won't record it until I play it live. So if I can play it live, then I'll record it. There is some stuff that once we get in the studio, there's some stuff that I'll do that I know I'm never going to play live.
Like 30 seconds down the stairs. That's
30 seconds. If I ever got the budget, that would definitely happen. But there's always weird interludes that I like to build. And it goes all the way back to that Willy Wonka-esque thing, like the weird interludes and the weird strange vibe and atmosphere stuff. I'm really into that. Like the Pick Scrape track was something we did do live in Minneapolis, opening for God Bullies on Hammerhead. On accident, I tuned the guitar and somebody was like, hurry up. So then I was just tuned it and just scraped from the neck pickup to the edge of the last fret for 5 straight minutes, just not playing, just scraping. And so when we did the record, I was like, oh, we got to do that again. And then we did it. And then I told Taylor, I said, take that entire track and reverse it and put it underneath the original track and let them play simultaneously. So then it sounds like a hurricane because they're combating each other. And he was like, that's going to sound like shit. And then I was like, no, it won't. Reverse one, leave the other one straight, and leave them parallel volume, same volume. Wow. And then we were listening to it and he was like, this is insane. And I was like, yeah, exactly. That's what it should be.
It is. I don't know. You have this knack for knowing how to sequence your albums. Maybe it's just your songs. Maybe it's not a knack. Maybe it's innate. But I love the way your albums unfold. Every single one of them. The opener is always killer, and it ends on something bizarre.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love it.
If you listen to Cancel Culture, at the beginning of Cancel Culture, it sounds like music playing. It sounds like somebody trying to jam a cassette in. And if you listen to the music in the background, it sounds like music playing on a store speaker. It's actually the very end of Penitent Curtis. So that's the very end of Penitent Curtis playing in the background. And it's supposed to be me switching out the tape for that's the new record.
That is awesome.
Being like, oh no, it's a new one. Put the new one on. Yeah. I like doing that, tying everything, little bits, tying them back together.
Oh, that is awesome. I have to pay more attention next time.
Yeah.
Do you have any songs that you don't play live that are just difficult to do? And what's your favorite to play live?
Difficult to do. To be honest, I wish I could do Jesus with a Shaved Head live. I love the way that song sounds.
I'm
Unfortunately, I can't because that Kevin just added some crazy bass to that, like slide bass. So I'm like, that's one I wish I could do. And unfortunately, I can't. And then some songs I feel like, you know what? You'll never get it. Like that. I think that's kind of cool too. Current song that I like playing live a lot. I fucking love playing Pretend Friends. Like it never gets old.
It's such a killer riff, and it's a lot of fun to play.
It's a lot of fun to play, but also Dirty Hands has really gotten up there as like probably one of my favorite ones to play live because it's just so heavy and it's fun, and like you said, the vocals are powerful. So that's definitely one up there. Probably and I think Danny would agree. It's like our favorite one to play live because it's just so good.
So do you, and if this is like a band's secret or a confidential thing, are you playing in standard tuning? Are you playing in like a drop tuning? How do you get in these real like thick, chunky, heavy, or is it a lot of effects poured on?
No, it's no, it's not secret at all. It's all drop D, okay. And some of it is C standard. Like I'll switch the guitar to like a C standard, but it's all mostly in drop D. People always think there's an octave, but there's no octave. It's the fuzz war. I run in a Marshall 212 and a bass 410 amp. And really it's the bass amp is just a little bit louder than the guitar amp. Oh. So it gives it that kind of like depth, low end kind of feel. But that's just years of experimenting of being a two piece and finding like what works. Oh. Small inch, 10-inch speakers sound the best to get that two piece heaviness.
That's what I got over there.
Oh, what you got?
Marshall. The head is an HDFX.
Yeah.
100, and then we got a cabinet with 410s.
That's the way to get the low end, man. Everybody's like, you need big like bullet. No, it's the 410s. The punch is what you need. That heavy punch.
They sounded when I went to get them. They had a cabinet with 412s and one with 410s, and I played through them both. And I'm like, the 10s just sound warmer. The 12s sounded kind of cold. And I'm like, I want that warmer sound. So I don't play out at all. I was just playing with buddies of mine in their basement. That was one of those. Yeah. And I've had that forever. And in fact, I haven't played it in probably a year. I need to pull it out.
Oh man.
I've got weird. I like my favorite distortion is I got my Proco Rat, and I've got this weird, ZVEX effects.
Yeah.
I've got the Machine.
Oh.
And it's so weird. It's just that the weirdest sound. He said I had Zachary Vex on the podcast several years ago, and he said the only person that's ever been able to make the Machine sound good is Jay Mascis.
That makes sense. So,
yeah. And I'm like, I can actually hear the pedal now that you say that. It's crazy. Yeah,
that makes absolute sense. I got like this whole closet is all just pedals. Oh. But the coolest thing I've got recently is the Stylophone Theremin.
Oh,
so the Stylophone company that makes the little like pen, I'm talking about the Stylophones.
Yeah.
They're like, they made a Theremin recently, and it's like $100, but it has a built-in delay, a built-in reverb, a Doom trigger, like toggle pad. It sounds like insane. Oh. So that's been like my new favorite thing. And then, where the fuck is it? Hold on, I gotta show you this real quick.
Yeah.
This is not, we can't really show this, talk about this on the podcast because I don't know how much of it is out, but this is,
I'll beat that out.
Yeah, those fuckers are great, but this has been my writing setup that's Buzz's amp and a pedal.
Oh,
it's like the Solvictus, which is a beta lead and a pedal, and you can just run it to powered speakers. You don't have to even run it to an amp because it is the amp in the box.
Man,
and it has 2 separate channels you can set up however you want. You can toggle between each channel or do both at the same time. Independent master volume, sounds incredible. I fucking love this thing. And then I always need like a a muff or some sort of fuzz. So I have this, but this has been my writing board for the new record, just because this is easy to take around. Yeah. This sounds fucking amazing. And then I still got my shit. Yeah. But if you can get a hold of one of these, I think he just might have stopped doing it, or he has a few left. Highly recommend it.
Oh, cool.
I can't say enough about it. They're so good.
That is awesome. So you mentioned that you're working on some new music. Is there is there any idea of when that might start to take shape and there might be a release in the future?
I think there'll be a release soon. Not soonish, but soonish. I know that doesn't make much sense, but it does in my head, and that's all that counts.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
So that did bring me to one question that I accidentally skipped over here. So
sure.
Cancel Culture Club and Fat Chance, there's only like a year apart between those releases. So were those written at completely different times, or was some of Fat Chance left over from Cancel Culture Club?
Totally two different writings. Wow. So yeah, it's that. And then I pretty much, once I record something and put it out, I'm working on something else.
Okay.
So yeah, that's pretty much how I work. So when Cancel Culture got out, I already was working on new stuff, which turned into Fat Chance. Fat Chance went out, same thing. I was already working on new stuff, which is going to be the next record. Yeah.
Excellent. So would it be fair to say maybe a 2025 release?
Oh, 100%. Okay. Yeah. It's going to all be out. Like I said, I would say before June. I feel like that's what it's going to be. Yeah.
Awesome. And when you did your Instagram Live, like we talked about in the very beginning of this, you mentioned touring a lot. You want to get out there and really hit it hard this year. Mm-hmm. What's that looking like? How is that? You looking as like a spring tour, maybe, or sooner?
Yeah. So we got quite a few things already lined up. Got on some festival stuff that I can't talk about too much, but there'll be a bunch of announcements on that. Yeah, a lot of dates, a lot of Midwest, a lot of South, back towards like the New York area, your side of the country. Nice. Kind of stuff too. So yeah, I mean, they're all lining up. We kind of had a little bit of a boom for a moment on social media, which was nice. And it's just been like email after email after email, filling. So it's been good. I've been very happy with how that's turning out. And we've been playing, we did some pop-up shows in a public restroom, and we did some pop-up shows. We did a show at a library. Yeah. It's been, that. Yeah.
That's on YouTube, I think, right? That's crazy.
It's on Instagram, YouTube, all this. Yeah, we're very much this year is like we'll play anywhere and everywhere. So we're playing a kid emailed me and said, I got an Airbnb and I'm going to have a party in Chicago. Would you guys like to play? And I said, yep.
That is awesome. I hope you guys come to the Virginia, DC, Maryland area soon, because I am dying to see another show.
Oh yeah, we already got some stuff in the works, so that's definitely happening.
Awesome. Well, what's the best way for people to find the dates, the releases, and follow you on social media, buy the music, and help support you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So Instagram, always Mr. Fly's Band. Good luck trying to spell that. The Facebook, Bandcamp, Spotify, basically anywhere you can stream. Bandcamp's always the best way to buy. Yeah. I'm always telling people, build a Spotify playlist, throw that shit on there. That people look at those numbers, they care about that.
Yeah, somehow.
Somehow, for some reason, bookers still look at that shit, which makes no sense to me, because I much rather people stream it on Bandcamp, because I make money and that keeps the band on the road. But yeah, all social medias, Mr. Fly's is where you can find us. Try Googling that. I'm sure you'll see my dumb face appear on something. Yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate the time you spent with me tonight. It's been awesome chatting with you and getting to know more about the band. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, man. This has been super fun.